pertaining to this apology by Facebook and the possible role that this social media platform may have played in Sri Lanka's communal violence back in 2018, we'd like to speak to digital media analyst Mr. Nalaka Gunawardene, who I am connecting live on video conferencing. Mr. Gunawardene, thank you for joining us. Now, this human rights assessment report by Facebook this morning about 2018, when is this dated? Give us an update on the key findings of this report to begin with.
Okay, it is a significant outcome of a assessment carried out in August and September of 2018. As you just heard, it was carried out by an independent human rights consultancy company called Article 1. Mm-hmm. They did for Sri Lanka as well as for Indonesia. And the objective was to find out how the use of Facebook is impacting societies in our two countries. And it looked at both the human rights benefits as well as negative impacts. And on the plus side, and this is also, I think, significant, on the plus side, Facebook has played a key role in enabling marginalized voices in society who did not and do not have easy access to the mainstream media. It has given a platform for civil society and others to mobilize. Mm-hmm. So all that is acknowledged. But on the negative side, the report has documented the impacts on 5 categories in particular. The impacts on women, the impacts on children, on religious minorities, on sexual minorities or the LGBTQ community, right, as well as human rights defenders. And in each of these specific groups that the assessment looked at, it has found that there have been many unintended consequences of this global platform and when it comes to local use. And this is what it's drawing the attention of the users as well as Facebook companies' management, that it needs to be a lot more tuned in on how the platform is being used by over 2 billion users who are now among the Facebook community.
Now, Facebook has repeatedly said that they're improving their tools on AI technology. But how effective has this social media platform been in dealing with local languages, Sinhalese and Tamil, where most of these hate speech, misinformation, disinformation is spread? So what is the effective measure here?
That is indeed the key question. Now, Facebook was summoned to key parliaments in the US, in the UK, and was interrogated. Mark Zuckerberg, the founder himself, and the senior executives were interrogated by legislators on how Facebook is being responsive and responsible. And one of the points that Zuckerberg kept saying is, we are deploying state-of-the-art artificial intelligence that can automatically detect and help remove most of the hate speech and disinformation. Now, that may well be advanced for key international languages like English, French, Spanish. But when it comes to our languages, Sinhala, Tamil, and Burmese and other languages, that capability is nowhere near optimal. It is still very rudimentary, and to rely on automated screening systems is certainly not a viable option for the moment. So what the company does then is to rely on human content monitors. Again, the company has not been disclosing how many Sinhala and Tamil language content monitors it has. It didn't have any excuse me. It didn't have any until a couple of years ago. And in response to the March 2018 violence, they said they have increased, but they still would not disclose how many is on their Sinhala and Tamil content moderation teams. So what we see is that the company is certainly responding to the allegations and the huge negative publicity that was created not only in Sri Lanka but also by the violence in Myanmar. But is this enough? Is this anywhere proportionate to the huge and rising impact that the platform is having in our countries?
Back in 2018, Mr. Gunawardene, the government locked out Facebook for a week, and even during the Easter attacks, we saw this, how they reacted. But the reaction and the apology of Facebook, how should the government respond to this?
That's something the government should certainly study. The government should study the full human rights impact assessment as well as the Facebook company's response. Facebook is certainly trying to clean up its act and improve its responsibility, belatedly perhaps, but better late than never. Now, for government, both the previous government as well as this government, the crude measure is to block the whole platform, as was done 4 times after the Easter Sunday attacks and once for several days after the March 2018 violence. But that is not the right way to respond, because like all digital technologies, Facebook is a platform that brings many benefits as well as some negative impacts. There is the good, there is the bad, and there is the ugly. So in such a mixed bag, how do we manage this locally in terms of policy and regulatory response, in terms of digital literacy, and also how do we hold the company accountable to be enforcing its own rules, which are known as community standards. Now, every Facebook user signs up and agrees to abide by what are known as community standards.
Right.
And yet, when it comes to violations and breaches in Sinhala and Tamil users, the company has not been able to adequately monitor. So this is the gap. This is a huge gap that Facebook is trying to plug, and it has appointed more content moderators. It has appointed a policy manager for Sri Lanka, and it is also investing in artificial intelligence, we are told, for better language capabilities in Sinhala and Tamil. But these are medium to long-term measures. But in the short term, I think all of us, users, the state, and the company have a responsibility to be vigilant, to find and rapid respond to the early warnings of any abusers scaling up, whether it's violence, whether it is election manipulation, whether it is disinformation.
Now, some say that Facebook's system of such apologies are a symptom of a profound crisis of accountability. What are your thoughts, very quickly, before we wrap up this discussion?
Facebook has been less than accountable. Certainly outside the United States, it has not been sufficiently accountable to other users in all parts of the world. And this is part of the problem. It is still thinking in terms of the accountability to the country of registration and to the First Amendment in the US, which safeguards freedom of speech. But what it instead should move to is to conform to the international human rights legal framework, which is what the global community is expected to abide by. And accountability stems from adopting a more robust and more vigilant human rights framework and practice.
Thank you very much for your time. I think it's time we move on to a news alert just in. Thank you for your time here.